Oh, Britt, you're working on Sweepy there. You need any help?
I think I'm all set, but thanks.
Ah!
Greetings, fellow makers. I'm Brittany Duran from Punished Props. In our last shop, we only had enough room to display some of our props on the walls, and all of our costumes were crammed in bins in the closet. With our new, bigger shop, we have a big office with an entire blank window wall, and we think this would be a really good place to set up some mannequins to display our costumes. And in this video, I'm going to show you how I made a custom mannequin stand for Sweepy. One of the things I love about the SweeperBot design in Destiny is the spindly silhouette. I didn't really capture that shape while wearing the costume, but this could totally work on a PVC pipe stand. I did a quick mock-up of the shape and measured my limbs to figure out how much pipe I'd need. I also marked what kinds of fittings may work for the joints. For the base, I followed the design of an actual mannequin stand. We already had a sheet of aluminum that was the right size, but I still needed a flange for each foot, plus all of the pipe fittings. At the hardware store, we picked up 2 metal flanges and connection pipes to make the base super sturdy. The rest of the stand would be plastic PVC pipes. Yes, we were those cosplayers assembling plumbing pipes that shouldn't go together while in the store.
Cool.
Then that'll be this part. This, connect to that.
We went home with our assortment of connections and 3/4 inch pipes, then got to work on the base. The mannequin base has flat countersunk bolts, and it turns out we didn't have those in the right size. These little bolts worked out, they just don't have that same snug clearance. I left the aluminum a little wider than the reference base, and Bill cut down the length with a cutting wheel on the grinder. He even rounded the corners and beveled the edges. Thanks, Bill. The flange has a pipe that will bolt into the base and act as the ankle holder. But first, I marked where the flange would attach to the base and center punched some starter divots for the drill press. I went with a stepper bit and drilled down only far enough to make an opening for the bolt. The nuts we had sat proud of the base, but that's fine. I wanted to back the base with adhesive-backed foam. The mannequin stand has little footies as well, and it makes it much easier to slide around the cement floor. The 1-inch PVC pipe didn't quite fit on the flange base, so I tapered the inside edges with a rotary tool to make it fit more snug. The SweeperBot has this fun knee shape that I didn't replicate with my human legs. I was so excited to add this design into the stand. As I moved up the skeleton, I measured and cut the length of each pipe to match my body dimensions. If I was making a normal mannequin holder, I would only use 1 T connection for the spine, but Sweepy has 2 pipes going up through the torso. This was something else that I didn't replicate while wearing the costume, but we'll get to have on the mannequin display. The PVC couplings did need to be cut down a bit to fit. I cut smaller pipe chunks to fit inside the couplings and joined everything together. The base was becoming quite wiggly, so I permanently attached the metal base to the PVC pipe with JB Weld epoxy. Later in the build, I added even more of the epoxy to the outside of the connection. The torso was bent forward to match SweeperBot's pose. For a normal skeleton, arm sockets could be added with a T-coupling and a 45-degree or 90-degree connection attached to that. But I wanted to try making Sweepy's arms rotate and look like they're actually sweeping. This connection is for the neck, and the arms will be attached later. A rubber mallet is super handy to get shorter segments to fit together. The arm attachment is a single bolt that fits into a 45-degree coupling, which connects to the shoulders. This way, I have 1 point of rotational movement to make the goofy sweeping motion. The bolt is attached to the neck. This system got modified a bit later in the build. I wanted to make sure the arms didn't run into the robot parts, so it was time to start attaching things. All of these connections are temporary, so I can still wear the costume later. The feet are another fun thing I didn't replicate in the costume. Sweepy has a lot of voids, like a missing heel. I only needed to make the base, out of foam of course, and then add Velcro attachments. Foam spacers wedged the heels in place. I actually did that for a lot of the armor. It stays in place pretty well. For the costume, the top of the hips were attached with a sew-on snap. I attached the adjoining snap to more foam to keep that in place. The bottom of this piece is Velcro to another temporary connection. The waist was suspended with more foam. All of these Velcro connections were already used for the costume. The other half of the Velcro was on my bodysuit. While I worked on this, my 3D printer was printing some prototype connections for the joints. I wanted the arms to be posable and to have a lot of rotation. Both arms are going to hold a broom, and that sounded tricky to get right with static connections. It took me a couple tries to get the 3D model right, but I got a design that barely fit into the 3/4 inch pipe and still had a good rotation. A slit was cut into the PVC pipe, and then the printed connection was slid in place. A bolt and wing nut cinched the pipe closed and kept the printed piece from rotating. This worked really well for things that don't weigh very much. My first test pieces were printed with 30% infill. This seemed sturdy even when the connected piece was added. But with the leverage of the pipe, the print broke. I probably should have changed the print orientation so the print lines would be going vertically up the print, but these cylinders print so well standing up that instead I just tried printing the joints solid without any infill. Without the broom attached, all the 3D printed connections are working great. It was time to start attaching some connections permanently. PVC pipe cement was applied to the inside and outside of the connection, then held in place for a few seconds. This stuff is quite stinky, so I worked outside. I also glued most of the knee pieces in place. My mannequin hands needed to hold a broom. The costume has gloves, so whatever contraption I created would be hidden inside. I started following the outline of my hand with wire and realized I needed some kind of sturdy paddle for the palm. I cut out the shape from PVC foam, leaving a notch for the connecting joint. I continued following the hand turkey, this time making sure the hand loops followed the holes drilled in the plastic. Tiny bolts with a washer on the end held each hand loop in place. I cut some PVC pipe segments, superglued them in place, and epoxied the wrist joint to the palm. My costume gloves are stretchy, form-fitting, and are too difficult to cram stuffing into with this wire hand. Instead of stuffing, I taped upholstery foam straight to the hand. The soft foam side is on the outside of the hand. These wire hands did a great job holding onto the broom, and everything seemed to be going pretty well. More support was needed for the forearm pieces. I wedged in chunks of upholstery foam, more than what was already glued in there when I wear the costume. The chest armor was suspended with an aluminum rod, and more foam supports. These had to fit around the upholstery foam glued under the shoulder strips. At this point, the entire structure seemed really front-heavy and wanted to tip forward. The leg silhouette didn't look right either. I checked the reference and realized my mannequin weight was over the knees. Instead, the waist should be centered over the feet. I needed the knees to bend backward a little bit. I used a heat gun to soften the PVC pipe and used a coupler as a guide to bend it slightly to a new angle. I made sure to be gentle with the heat, and it's best to do this outside since burning PVC pipe is toxic. With the waist rested over the feet, it looked much better and was way more stable. I did have to heat and bend the hip joints to recreate the bended sweepy pose. I continued on with the armor attachments and added snap connections for the shoulders, like I did for the thigh pieces. This piece is a connection for a 1-inch pipe that also loosely fits over the T-connection. This allows for some fun head rotation. My robot head is like a helmet and has no inner supports. I cut out PVC foam to the dimensions of the inner head and cut a hole for the pipe. A piece of pipe coupling was epoxied to the plastic and friction fits to the 1-inch pipe neck. If the head was facing straight up, this would be enough support, but the head is tilted and the platform wanted to rotate. I added temporary attachments with Velcro. Everything seemed to be working well, so I moved on to painting the skeleton. All the plastic got roughed up with a sanding sponge, and some of the raised up text was removed in the exposed areas. I took the whole stand outside, we haven't got a paint booth set up yet, and sprayed on a layer of Krylon camo in black. The next day, I brushed on silver acrylic onto all the pipes. With the silver done, it was time for the final assembly. And then, with the weight of the broom, the left shoulder joint broke. Multiple times. There was just too much stress at that angle for the type of print I created. I could have tried reprinting the pieces with a stronger filament, maybe even changing the print orientation to horizontal, but instead I just switched the left arm to a static pose, with the shoulder at 45 degrees and the elbow at 90 degrees. Also, with the leverage of the broom, my right elbow kept rotating. Tightening the screw was just causing the pipe to bend open. A hose clamp was added to cinch that joint in place. Since I was modifying things, I replaced the neck with a straight connection, which let the head rest at a less severe angle. And this time, the sweeper bot display was done. This design was very custom, but I hope the basic techniques and materials I used will help you with your custom display stands. If I were going to make my stand again with the posable arms, I think I would try just heating the PVC pipe and flattening it, drilling a hole, and then adding a wing nut or any kind of nut on the other side. And that way, having it all be the same material, I think would be stronger than just a 3D printed joint. My 3D printed joints didn't work out too well, but I think they could be really cool. There are a couple of other designs up online. I'll link those down below. Those might be worth trying out. There's lots of different ways to make mannequin stands for your costumes, and there's some really good video tutorials out there for the different methods. I'll also link those down in the description. In the comments, please share ways that you like to display your costumes, and also share links to other mannequin tutorial builds. Thank you for watching this video. I look forward to making more displays for the rest of our costumes and for all our future costumes to come.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe so you don't miss any of our new weekly prop and costume tutorial videos. For more goodies, head over to our website where you'll find blueprints, tutorial books, articles, and more. We also have a second channel for our Q&A show and extra behind the scenes videos. Thanks again and happy crafting.